Hello everyone, my name is Ulugʻbekov Xojiakbar and I am the student of the Tashkent State University of Economics. And now I want to teach you how to work correctly with the Stata. Now let's start it by entering the World Bank Open Data. World Bank Open Data. And here the country that I wanna test the economy is Denmark, and so I want to browse by country since it's easy for me. Denmark for T and sorry, we have to download the Excel format of which is about the economy of Denmark. Okay, here you can see the Excel format of the Denmark. First of all, we have to open a new list and copy and paste the informations about the economy of Denmark. First of all, we have to get the country name and years. Copy and paste. We have to put the transposed version of this data like this, and you can get one dependent variable and 5 independent variables. Actually, I've done it, but I want to show you how to correctly do it. Let's get the total population of the Denmark. Copy and paste. Transpose version. And then you can get any informations. It may be gross savings. Copy and paste. And don't forget to delete some unnecessary informations. They are country name, because we know which country we are learning, and country code also. Don't delete the indicator names, indicator codes. You have to delete, and we have to rewrite all the indicators in order to write in a readable format for Stata. We don't need indicator name. Actually, they are years and correct. We don't put the space because it will be unreadable for Stata population total and gross savings percentage of GDP. Okay, savings like that. You have to write with a subspace all the indicator names. Actually, I have collected all the data. Here you can see them, and they are from 1960 to 2023, which is a 63-year information. And when it comes to the data, let's begin our let's begin it. And first of all, we have to open new data. And first of all, we have to import our file, our Excel file, Denmark data. Denmark data. Don't forget to click the first button, because when you forget that, your variables will be A, B, C, and other capital letters of the Latin alphabet. If you click that button, your variables will be GDP export and other variables that you got from the Open Data Bank. And press OK button. Okay, here you can see all the variables, and we have to download our do file. How we can do? First of all, open new do file and press the open file button. From there, we have to import our do file. Okay, here you can see my do file. First of all, we have to browse in order to see our files. Okay, you can see all the informations are correct, and then we can start our actions. SSC install stock. What it help us install stock. It help us to connect the Microsoft Office and the Stata, and then sdoc sum in order to see all the informations. And here you can see the statistics, all the informations in one Word file. And the next comment that I want to do is a TS years in order to see the what years we need to cover and what years we are doing research. So if you write in the wrong way, the state I cannot read it, so put here, and here you can see time variable from 1960 to 2023 and delta 1 unit. And the next one is a two-way TS line. And what this comment help us? First of all, let's do this comment. I wanna prefer doing the 6 comments simultaneously, and lastly, at the end, I wanna put the graph combine order in order to all the graphs in one table. Okay, let's do it. Here you can see all the graphs, and then we can write the graph combine G1, G2, G3, G4, G5, and G6. Why I wrote the name G3 replace, for example, it helps us to code the graph as a G3 variable. And when we write graph combine G1 to G6, it helps us to all the graphs in one table, as I said before. And here you can see all the graphs: GDP export, gross capital formation, labor force, consumption, expenditure, and FDI, meaning foreign direct investment. And then we copy it and put our Word file. Here you can see my Word file. My name is Ulugʻbekov Xojiakbar, as I said, and I'm the student of Tashkent State University of Economics and student of group MO21. My contact details, email, GL classification codes, and receipt numbers. And here you can see the order that we have done before. It's a SDOC sum. It helps us to the descriptive statistics provide an overview of key economic indicators for Denmark over a period spanning from 1960 to 2023. And if you want to read all the informations fully, you can watch the YouTube video and pause the video and read it. Here you can see the two ATS line graph that we have done before, and the image presents time series graph of Denmark's key economic indicators, including GDP, exports, gross capital formation, labor force, consumption, expenditure, and foreign direct investment. When it comes to the key observations, GDP shows a steady upward trend, indicating long-term economic growth. Exports exhibit significant growth, particularly after 1990, suggesting Denmark's increasing integration into global trade. Let's do the next order. It's a scatter. Let's see what help us this comment. Put it to our Stata and Control V. You can see all the scatter graphs of our orders, and finally we have to write graph combine in order to see all of them. Graph combine G1, G3 and G4 and G5, since we have 5 graphs, and then you can find all of them like that. And here the additional thing that you need to learn when you correct the mistakes like that, first of all you have to click that button. It's a graph editor, and select this area, and here label angel. You can choose one of them in which style is useful for it, maybe 45-degree, and if you click that you can see like that. And let's do it is a vertical, and if it's vertical it's shown like that. You can copy and put it to Word file. Okay, scatter order. What it helps us. The scatter plots in the image illustrates the relationship between Denmark's key economic indicators. Key observations: GDP versus exports. A strong positive correlation suggests that as exports increase, GDP also rises, highlighting the importance of trade in Denmark's economic growth. And second one is GDP versus labor force, shows a positive relationship indicating that economic expansion of accompanied by labor force growth, though the effect appears non-linear. It's a labor force and GDP. If you see that kind of graph, there are some misunderstanding. Let's read it. GDP versus FDI shows significant variability with some correlation at higher GDP levels, indicating that FDI plays a role in economic performance but is subject to fluctuations. Overall, these scatter plots confirm strong linkages between trade, investment, labor force, and economic growth in Denmark, reinforcing the country's reliance on a globally integrated and innovation-driven economy. Let's continue with Stata. This next order that we want to do is a two-way test line with a L-fit order. Two-way L-fit. What actually help us? We get all of them. And see the final one at the end. Control copy, Control V. Okay, and graph combine in order to see all of them simultaneously. So we have 4 graphs, and you can see that we have that kind of issue that I have learned, that I've taught before, and actually I have corrected beforehand. You can copy and put to your Word file. Okay, you can see here I have corrected the mistakes. The image presents two-way scatter plots with fitted lines to visualize the relationship between Denmark's key economic variables. Let's read the overall interpretation. The fitted lines confirm strong positive relationships among these key economic indicators. Denmark's economic growth appears to be heavily influenced by exports, labor force expansion, and investment in capital formation, reinforcing the country's trade-driven and investment-oriented economy. Okay, and let's back to the Stata and do the other orders like that. Okay, PV core. Let me explain the PV core order by its table. First of all, we have to see actually what is it. PV core. You can see the result of this comment, and you can put it to your word. Actually, I have done before. PV core order. Pairwise correlation analysis (PICO order). The table presents pairwise correlation coefficients between key economic indicators, showing the strength and significance of their relationship. What actually these indicators show us? Export and GDP. The first row help us to how much they are correlated. Let's read it as a percentage. 94.6% they are correlated, and why there's a 1 point. Actually, export correlated with 100%, and 58 it's overall number of the observations, and you can read it as a showed like labor force and GDP, and there is a 82% correlation, and the observations are 34. The table, let me explain the overall interpretation. Denmark's economy is heavily influenced by exports, domestic consumption, and capital investment, all of which exhibits very strong correlations with GDP. The labor force also has a significant impact, while FDI plays a smaller role but still contributes to economic activity. These insights suggest that policies promoting exports, investment, and workforce expansion are critical for sustained economic growth. And if you want further explanation, you can read by pausing the YouTube video that I've downloaded to YouTube. Let's back to the Stata and do the next comment. The next comment that I want to do is a Spearman. First of all, we have to see actually what is it. Spearman order. You can see it here, and uh, let me explain it. Spearman correlation analysis. This table presents Spearman's rank correlation coefficients for key economic indicators, showing the strength and direction of their monotonic relationship. Key observations: GDP and other variables. Export 96%, very strong positive correlation, reinforcing the idea that GDP and exports move together. Labor force 82%, and you can read all of them by pausing the video, because we have to consider the time. And conclusion: Denmark's economy shows a strong relationship between GDP, exports, consumption, and investment, while FDI has a limited impact. Policies enhancing exports and domestic investment may be more effective than relying on FDI to drive economic growth. Let's back to the data, and our next order is a P norm. It helps us to see the normality of our variables, and let me explain it by graph. I think there's no issues. Okay. Second graph, our source graph will be here. Okay, and our force, and lastly our fifth graph. And let me help you to show all of them in one graph. Graph combine G1, graph 3, graph 4, and graph 5. And here you can see all the graphs in one table, like that. You can copy and paste to your fort. P-norm. Actually, what is it? It's a normality test analysis, and the P-norm probability P-norm probability normal plots compare the empirical distribution of the data with the theoretical norm distribution. That's normal, and these scatters are half far or near to our normality. Normal distribution. If the data points closely follow the 45-degree reference line, it indicates normality. Let me explain the conclusion. GDP exports and consumption expenditure are closer to a normal distribution, but many require minor transformations. GDP exports and consumption expenditure. GDP and others. FDI and labor force show a strong deviation, suggesting they might require log transformations or non-parametric tests for analysis. Here you can see the FDI and cross capital formation, and labor force. And labor force. FDI and labor force, since they are really far from our normality. Let's move on to the next order. It's I think histogram, and let me explain it by the graph. Control copy and Control V. You can see the all the graphs after a few seconds. Our line, or this line must be like that, and let's see all of them in one table. Graph combine G1. Okay, actually our this line must be like that, meaning the bell shape. Okay, wait just a minute, just a second. Here you can see all of them, and you can correct in order to see the indicators by this graph editor. And you need to copy and put it to our Word file. Here you can see all of them. Actually I've corrected the mistakes if there are some, sorry for that. And histogram and density plot analysis. These histogram and density plots provide insights into the distribution of each variable. Here's a summary of key observations. Let's move to the observations. GDP and consumption expenditure. These variables appear bimodal, meaning they have two peaks, which may indicate different underlying subgroups in the data. GDP and consumption expenditure. Actually, here our GDP model is a GDP histogram is a bimodal, has a consumption expenditure, like that. Here you can see two peaks. And the export and labor force, these distributions are highly strict, particularly to the right, positive skew, indicating that a transformation might be needed. Log transformation. We need a log transformation in Stata in order to correct the informations. Export and labor force. You can see them, our graph, our linear graph, and key takeaways. Skewed variables, export labor force, gross capital formation. Consider using log or square root transformation to normalize distributions. Actually, why I have written key takeaways. If you have such kind of the issues with your data, you can take into account these advices. And okay, let's move on to our next comment. Actually, it's a graph box. Why I have provided all the data beforehand because it might be really time consuming. So in order to save the data, I have done all the actions beforehand. I have downloaded to the Word file and Graphbox. Let's do all of them simultaneously, and you can see all of them in one table, and I will give the explanation with Word file. Box plot analysis. Box plots are useful for detecting outliers and understanding the distribution of variables. Here, what we can observe: GDP export, gross capital formation, and consumption expenditure. These variables show a relatively symmetric distribution with no extreme outliers. Here you can see GDP, export, gross capital formation, and consumption expenditure. All of them are in our graph box. When you see this kind of the plots, these are one or two variables that are far from our normality. This square represents 75% of our indicators, and these lines are 25. This the bottom line shows us the bottom's value of our variable, and the highest point shows us the highest variable. Labor force. This variable has several outliers on the lower side. Okay, it's correct. Labor force. And the distribution is somewhat skewed, with the median closer to the top of the box, indicating the left skewed distribution. Okay, by the way, this line which is in the box shows us the mean value of our variable. Key takeaways: what we have to do. Labor force and FDI have notable outliers. Further investigation is needed to determine if these are genuine or due to data errors. If you have that kind of issues, you can take into account this advice. We have to move on. S-Wilk, Shapiro-Wilk test. Let's see it. Okay, Shapiro-Wilk test, and here you can see the number of observations. GDP has 64 observations, export 58, and also gross capital formation. Labor force has 34 observations, while the consumption expenditure has 58, and FDI has 54 observations. Let me explain it with a Word file, since it helps us to save time. Shapiro-Wilk test for normality interpretation. Shapiro-Wilk test checks whether a data set follows a normal distribution. The key columns to focus on are: V. Test statistics. This values close to 1 indicate a distribution close to normal. How our variables are normal. GDP has a 95% normality, while the export has a 87, and gross capital formation has a 93 normality, and like that. Probability p-value. If the p-value is below the 0 is smaller than 0.05, we reject the null hypothesis, meaning the data is not normally distributed. Let's move on to the next comment. Alpha and other comments. Here you can see. Okay, let me teach the other things that we need in order to do our research, and we need a regression. Okay, let me show the regression. First one, we have to copy and paste it Actually, what is it? Regression. Regression, here you can see regression analysis interpretation. This table represents the result of a multiple regression analysis where GDP is a dependent variable and the independent variables are export, gross capital formation, labor force, consumption expenditure, and FDI. Here you can see all the informations. And R squared, what these indicators tell us. R squared, probability. What's actually R squared? R squared indicates that 99% of the variation in GDP is explained by the independent variables. This is very high, meaning the model has a strong explanatory power. Probability more than F suggests that the overall regression model is highly significant. Let me explain post estimations. Let me explain how we can predict the informations. First of all, we have to predict the y hat, and oh, sorry, we need to show the stat VIF comment. It helps us how many our variables are correlated. It's a multi-collinearity test. You can see the indicators. Variable inflation factor (VIF) analysis. VIF measures multicollinearity among independent variables. A VIF is if the VIF is bigger than 10 suggests severe multicollinearity, while VIF is higher than 5 indicates moderate multicollinearity. Interpretation, our result is 4.20. So our interpretation, gross capital formation VIF 6.21 and export VIF 5.68 indicate moderate multicollinearity, while the labor force shows low multicollinearity. Our mean VIF is at 4.20, which is acceptable. And let me show how we can predict. And it helps us to all of them. It predicts y hat. You can see certain missing values generated, and you can see the y hat at that place since our predicted values are added to our variable table as a variable. Okay, you can see the histogram of y hat, graph box of y hat, and Shapiro-Wilk test of y hat. Okay, let's move on to the next step in order to do the research. Let me show the log file. Finally, you can do your log file to show all the actions you have done. How we can do? First of all, we can have to do put this, and you have to save it as you want. Okay, you can see log open time, and you can do all the actions from first to the last one, and finally if you want to close your log, close log file, and okay, closed on time. Let's move on to the next step. I think that are all things that we can do in with Stata. And if you need further explanation, you can contact with me as I to my email address that I have provided before. You can see my email. Okay, thanks for attention.